In the last video of this NAS series, I showed you all the apps that I installed on my TrueNAS server. And since then, I've had issues with trying to access everything. I got links for days. I got IP addresses that I'm typing in and ports and trying to remember them all. I go into TrueNAS UI often and go into the apps and try to find the app I want. It takes too long. And I don't have any visibility into the apps unless I click right into them. So we're gonna solve that with, you guessed it, a dashboard. And today I'm gonna go through two of the more popular dashboards available out there for your home server, which are Homarr and Homepage. And so by the end of it, I'm gonna show you how to set it up in TrueNAS Scale. You can decide which one is best for you and be able to configure it for yourself. So let's get into it. Okay, before we dive into the setup, let's look at some of the key differences between Homepage and Homarr. They're both great setups, great dashboards, but they take slightly different approaches. So Homepage configuration is done through YAML files. Tons of integrations, 100+ integrations pre-built, ready to go, that'll integrate with your apps and give you information from those apps in your dashboard. Because it's done through config files, the customization is very high, but that makes the learning curve a little higher than Homarr. Mobile support is good. It scales the dashboards nicely onto your mobile screen. So that's Homepage. Now Homarr, it's the opposite configuration. Instead of config files, it's through graphical interface, drag and drop style. It has about 30+ integrations pre-built into it. The customization is moderate, and the learning curve is a little easier to get into it because of that drag and drop style. Mobile support, from what I've seen, it doesn't scale that great on your mobile device, so you'd likely have to set up one dashboard for computer screen and one for your mobile screen. So you'll have to decide which one's best for you. My approach in this video is going to be to install both of these in TrueNAS Scale, show you a basic setup in Homarr, and then do a deeper dive in Homepage to show how all these configuration files work. So the first one we'll look at is Homarr because it's the easier of the two. And the first thing we want to do is in your TrueNAS datasets, set up a app config dataset for this. And you would have seen me do this for all the other apps I set up in the previous video. So we'll just do that quickly. Okay, that's set up. Now we'll go into the apps and discover apps. We'll find Homarr and install it. Now the one thing you're gonna need to set up Homarr and install it is a secret encryption key. So to do that, we'll pull up a console and we'll run this command, openSSL rand hex 32, and that'll give us a key and we can copy that into the secret encryption key. And then further down, we'll leave all this the same. You can change the port if you want to access it from a different port. If you want to make this 80 and then change the TrueNAS UI to a different port, that's up to you. But I'm going to leave it the same. The only other thing we want to change is the config storage, the data storage. And so we'll find that data set that we just set up, and then we'll install. So it's deploying now. We can check the status of the deployment by looking at the log. Okay, that took a minute to deploy, but now it's running and we can access the web UI through port 3100. And we don't have a previous configuration from a previous version of Homarr, so we're going to start from scratch. And then you need to create a username and password. We'll hit continue and we'll create our first board. So we'll create a new board here. We'll call our board creative. And then we'll open that board. And it's just a clean slate ready for us to add what we want to add. So we can go into edit mode or view mode by clicking this button and add items, apps. So let's add our first app. So we need to create the app first. We'll name it Jellyfin. We'll add Jellyfin and it automatically will find an icon for us, which is pretty nice. I don't think we need a description. And then we'll add the URL for Jellyfin. And there we go, our first app. We can click this and it'll take us to our Jellyfin app. And you can drag this to wherever you want, arrange it however you want, make it big, make it small, move it around. You can configure it however you want and display it however you want. So let's add an integration because there's lots of built-in integrations in Homarr. And so instead of adding an app, we would add a new item. And so these are all the different integrations that we can add onto our homepage, onto the dashboard that will give us information from within the app. Now, if we want to do something like from our download client, we can add this to our board and then edit it and select the integration. But because we haven't set up any integrations yet, it'll say no integrations found. So let's go do that. Click over into management. We'll go to integrations and new integration. And my downloader is SOB and ZBD. We will add that, add the URL and the API key. So depending on the app, there's different ways to find the API keys. So just look up the app that you want to find the API key for, and you'll find instructions on how to do that. But I have the API key here for my downloader. At the same time as adding these integrations, you can also click this to create the app along with it. So you have the integration and then you can also have the app shortcut as well. So we'll do that. Okay, it was successful. We will go back into our board. And now into edit mode, we can edit this item. And we now see the integration there that we set up. So we'll click save. And now we have a live view into SOB and ZBD. And so if I go and add a download and I hit refresh here, you'll see it downloading this copyright-free movie through my downloader. And you can control it right here. So I can delete it right here from the dashboard. No need to go into SOB. Really handy. This is one of the nice things with Homarr is the ability to interact with your apps in this way right from the dashboard. And since we said yes to including the app at the same time, we can say add an app, select SOB, and now that's there as well. Okay, so it's basically the same for all the different integrations and apps you want to do. I'll leave it up to you to play around with this, to look at all the different integrations and the apps that you can add into this and to make the layout as beautiful as you can. Now let's have a look at Homepage. All right, Homepage is arguably more powerful than Homarr, but it's also more complex to set up. The installation uses a user ID of 1000, which doesn't exist by default in TrueNAS. And so we'll run into permission issues because of that. But with all that said, we can work through that. It's not that difficult once you know how, and I'm gonna show you how right now. The first thing we wanna do, like with Homarr and our other apps, is set up a data set. We'll do that quickly. Okay, done, easy. Now, just like Homarr and the other apps, we can find it here in Discover. Install. Now we can leave the port the same. We don't need a secret code like we did with Homarr. We will find the host path here for our config storage. Do that again. And what we want to do now to solve for this permission issue with the user ID is enable ACL. And we will add an entry here. Entry is for a user, the ID is 1000. and we'll give it full control to that specific host path of homepage. And that's it. We'll hit install. And we can open the web UI. And there it is, the basic config. Here's our dashboard. Here's our homepage. We got some shortcuts. We got these example groups and these example services here. So let's config it. Well, where do we do that? There's nowhere to click on here to config. We need to do it through the config files, the YAML files. So this is where it gets a bit tricky as well. How do we access those files? Well, one way is directly through the shell here, and we can cd into config, and we can see all the YAML files here that we would need to edit in order to customize our dashboard. And so you can do that within the shell, and if you know how to use VI, then you can do that. And just edit it right here and save it, and it'll update. Now, VI isn't the easiest thing to use. I have started to learn it, but even just to quit it, you got to go :Q. It's not very user-friendly, but it is possible to do it this way. Another way is to share our config file through SMB, and then we can access it within our Mac file system or Windows file system or Linux. We can connect to it from our host machine that we're working on. So let's try that. So we'll go to shares and our SMB shares, and we can add it as a shared folder. So we'll select homepage, save. If it's asking us to restart, we can restart. SMB services restarted. Now, if we look at our file browser and go to our shares, we can see homepage here, and here are all those same config files that we were looking at in the shell. And now you can edit these files directly from here, opening them in your favorite text editor, whatever you want. This is BB Edit, and we can just add new services right in here and save it, and we'll see the updates. The third way of being able to edit these files is if you're running Code Server or VS Code on your TrueNAS system, you can map that config file to a folder within Code Server. So I can add additional storage here in this config and say it's from host path, and you would create a folder within the Code Server container. I've created one here under home coder homepage, and then mount it to the config dataset for homepage, and then update and start it up again. And then when you open up Code Server, you'll see the homepage folder here that we just mounted, and we can edit the files directly in here as well. The way I'm going to edit these files is through Code Server, just like this. And the files we're going to look at are bookmarks, which are like apps in Homarr, services, which are like the integrations, settings, which is the overall structure of the page, and widgets, which are the information bits at the top bar, like these ones here. So the way I learned this was through the gethomepage.dev website. There's a ton of information on here in configurations, how to set up bookmarks, services, information widgets. You can search, so you can type in what service you want to look at, and it'll give you the configuration just like that. So I have some prepared. I'll show you kind of how I've set this up to give you a bit of a head start, starting with the settings. So I'll paste mine in here because I had one prepared ahead of time. So I've added a title to the web page, a background to the web page as well. You can do a blur setting, so it'll blur the image. And the image, you can point to a URL, or you can move an image onto the config folder that we set up through SMB. and store the image there, one of your own images. You can set brightness, you can change the blur of each card, all sorts of things you can do here. Header style, underline versus boxed. All these settings are on the homepage configuration guide. And then layout, these reference different groups within your services YAML. So these are referencing those. So when we save this, it's not going to find those, so it's going to look a little funny. But as soon as we click over, as soon as it refreshes and you've saved the file, it takes on that new configuration. So we have the background blur in here, we have the line across. That's all set up, but the services, the bookmarks, the widgets, none of that's changed yet because we haven't edited those. You can see the title here is now CoreWorks NAS, although it's quite small, so you probably don't see it. Let's do the services next. So I'll paste in my services config here. And I spent a little bit of time setting this up. And what you'll see is for all these references to URLs and to usernames and passwords and keys, I have these environment variables set up. And the way I did that was through the app config for Homepage. So if you open it up and edit it, there's these environment variables here, and I'll have to blur these out. But there's a long list of these variables, and they have to start with homepage var, and then the rest of it you can name it whatever you want. And then when you restart the container, these will be available for you to use in those config files. You don't have to do this. I just did this because I want to be able to share this code, these config files, without sharing all my secrets. So you can see here I have a group named server, and it has different services. I got TrueNAS set up. I have Pi-hole, SAB, the downloader, and then I have another group called media. So wherever there's a dash, it's a new group that you're creating. Under media, I have Jellyfin, Sonarr, Jellyseerr, Apple TV. This one is a bit of a custom one that uses Home Assistant. So it connects to my Home Assistant server and looks for the media player Apple TV. And then it pulls the attributes, the app name and the media title that's currently playing on that Apple TV. Then we have Radarr and Calibre. And then I have a calendar as well that's connected to one of my Google calendars. So we'll save that, and we should start seeing some changes here. Yep, so now you start seeing those different groups that I set up and the services within them. So I got TrueNAS, it shows me how much is on each data pool. Pi-hole, SAB, this will show me the current downloads right now. Not as interactive as Homarr, where you can actually control it from this page. And then media, I'll see active streams on Jellyfin, what's playing on the Apple TV, and then my calendar as well. So the last thing we want to set up, last two things, are bookmarks and then widgets. So let's do the bookmarks. Here's what was defaulted in here. I'll copy mine across and save it. And then we'll see how that changes. Now I have bookmarks along the top of my page. And so each of these has an icon, and you can find these icons and the names if you go to dashboardicons.com and search for them. So Home Assistant, for example, if you spell it right, will be here. And you can get the name here, or you can copy the URL and then paste it, and then you can get the icon name at the end of that URL. And then you can use those within your config files. So the last thing we want to set up are the widgets, which are on the top bar. So for this, I have a few things set up. Change the search provider to Google. Resources, what I want to show here. Date and time. and then also weather. So it uses your latitude and longitude of your location. You can choose your units. I'm metric here in Canada. And then let's save that and see. Now we have CPU, memory, we have date and time, and we have the weather here. So now this is starting to look quite nice, and I actually prefer the look of this. It's a little cleaner. It automatically will arrange itself. So if you pull this up on your phone, it actually looks quite good, versus Homarr where you have to lay everything out yourself, and getting it to look good on your phone is a little trickier. So there's a lot more you can do with each of these with Homarr and Homepage. You can do your own custom CSS. You can do custom JavaScript as well. So if you know these things, the possibilities are almost endless. But this at least gets you started with some basic configs and understanding how to get both of these going on TrueNAS Scale. I went through that rather quickly with those config files, but I'm going to share them on my GitHub page if you're interested in using any of those to get you started with your own config. So the link will be in the description for those. So hopefully that was helpful for you. It does take a bit to figure each of these out. It took me a little bit anyways. Hopefully this gives you a bit of a jump start and understanding which one might be better for you. And if you go with Homepage, hopefully these configs help you to get a kickstart on your own configs. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.